Bring yourself to a seated wide leg position. Making sure your shoulders are stacked nice and tall, let's pull the fleshy bits away from your sit bones so that they can anchor firmly into the mat. Make sure your toes are turned up towards the ceiling, not dumping inwards. Start to take deep inhales and exhales, and as you inhale, lengthen your spine up nice and tall, and as you exhale, hinge forward at your hips, keeping your spine nice and long. With every inhale, grow taller, and with every exhale, hinge forward even if it's just half an inch. The inhales help you grow taller, and the exhales help you to fold. Keep this stretch moving to a comfortable point of tension, and once you've reached that point, continue breathing. Deep breaths into the sides of your rib cage and into your belly. Continue breathing as you move through this stretch, inhaling and exhaling. Walk your hands back in towards your starting point and turn to face your right leg. Hinging forward just like before, the inhales help you to lengthen, the exhales help you to fold. You're going to be folding over this right leg. Once again, finding a comfortable point of tension, always making sure to breathe in the positions that you're holding. Every inhale lengthens the spine, and every exhale folds. Let's rotate that inner arm up and over like you're creating an arc over the side of your torso, reaching towards the foot of your right leg. Get a nice side body stretch in this position. Turn to face your extended right leg and walk your hands back into the center. Now let's rotate to face the left leg. With deep inhales, hinge forward, and deep exhales, fold a little bit further. The inhales help your spine to grow nice and long. The exhales help you to fold further. Let your arms frame your leg and find that comfortable point of tension. Continue to breathe into the sides of your rib cage and into your belly, relaxing your shoulders as you hold this comfortable stretch. Take your inside arm and rotate it upwards to create that arc over the side of your torso. Enjoy a nice side body stretch as you reach your top arm up and over towards the foot. It doesn't need to go very close, but it should feel a nice side body stretch. Return to facing your leg and walk your hands back in. Let's bring the knees together and the feet together. We're going to clasp our hands behind our legs and round out through our mid-back, pulling the shoulder blades apart. Then we'll come forward onto the sit bones and arc forward, just like you do in a cat-cow. So round back as you exhale, and then inhale forward to arc the heart forward. Round back as you exhale, getting some length and space through the vertebrae. Now let's move into windshield wipers. So bring your hands just behind your hips and allow your knees to rotate from side to side. Relax the muscles of your quads, your hips, your hamstrings, your feet and your calves, and your upper body, and just let the knees rotate inwards and outwards. Inwards and outwards from side to side, enjoying the movement on your hips, on your lateral core. Now coming into a seated forward fold, let's once again move those fleshy bits off of our hips to the back so we can sit right up onto our sit bones. Inhale nice and tall, and then hinge forward slightly. We want to hinge forward to the point where we feel a comfortable stretch. So we're not forcing the stretch or feeling pain or a ton of resistance. With every inhale, we lengthen. With every exhale, we fold a little further forward. Try to keep your legs as straight as you can without the knees being locked out. If you can reach for your feet, then go there. If your hands rest comfortably on your thighs, on your knees, or on your shins, that is wonderful as well. Continue the deep breaths into the sides of the rib cage and into the belly. Let's slowly return back to that seated position and take the hands behind us once again for those windshield wipers, bringing our knees from one side to the other, enjoying this relaxation and loosening up of the hips as we rotate from side to side, releasing tension through the mid-torso. Once again, come to the seated position, moving the fleshy bits to the back right up onto the sit bones, and we're going to hug our left leg in towards our chest. Sit up nice and tall and place one hand behind your low back. Once again, with every inhale, we'll grow nice and tall. With every exhale, we'll rotate slightly through the torso. Inhale to grow tall, and exhale to rotate one vertebrae at a time. Come back to center, release your leg, and then cross your right leg over your opposite leg. Hug that knee in towards your chest, and we should be enjoying a nice stretch through the lateral part of our hips, through the sides of our glutes here. Hug that knee in nice and close, and we'll take our one hand behind our low back. Inhale to grow nice and tall, and then exhale to rotate, imagining your vertebrae was rotating one at a time. Inhales to grow tall, and exhales to rotate ever so slightly. Let's return back to center, releasing this leg, bending the knees, and then slowly curling through the low back, through the mid back, through the upper back, dropping down one vertebrae at a time. Slowly all the way down onto the ground with that exhale. Hug your left knee in towards your chest and do some circles for your hip flexor. Imagine your hip rotating around in the socket. You're trying to release, let's go in the other direction, circles with that knee and the hip in the other direction. Releasing any tension deep down into the hip and the low back. Moving into a half happy baby pose. So your extended leg can be straight or it can be bent, and you'll reach for the inside of the arch of your left foot, enjoying a nice deep stretch into the hamstring and the inner thigh. Place your hands on the back of your knee or the back of your hamstring and start to bend and straighten your leg, getting a nice dynamic stretch into the back of the hamstring and the calf. Instead of a static stretch where we'll hold the position, this is a dynamic movement. It should feel nice and helps to lengthen the back of the leg, that posterior chain. Let's hold this stretch and pull the leg in a little bit closer to feel a little bit more intense static stretch. Release this leg and then hug your right knee into the chest. Circles with that knee and the hip, releasing deep into the hip socket, relaxing the torso and the leg as much as possible as you do your circles. Let's rotate in the other direction, circles with the knee, opening up through the hips. Reach for the inside of your right foot now, enjoying that half happy baby stretch. That extended left leg can be bent or straight, whatever feels most comfortable on your low back, and helps you to enjoy a nice comfortable stretch on your inner thigh and hamstring of your right leg. Release this stretch, place your hands behind your knee or onto your hamstring, and start bending and extending that right leg, getting that nice stretch into the hamstrings, the calves. Over and over, bending and straightening, enjoying that dynamic stretch. Let's hold the stretch here, extending the leg up towards the sky, perhaps pulling in just ever so slightly to intensify the stretch. And we'll release both feet down to the mat, keeping the knees bent, Push the heels into the ground and lift the hips up to hold your glute bridge. Bring your hands to your rib cage and make sure that the rib cage is pointing towards the hip bones. Walk the feet so that they're touching and extend one leg up to the ceiling at a time. Being careful not to let your hips rock from side to side. Keep those hips lifted, pushing the heel of the foot into the ground and the hips up towards the ceiling. Imagining you're lifting with your hips, not with your belly button. We want to feel work on the glutes and the hamstrings here, not on our lower back. Let's slowly bring those hips back down to the floor, one vertebrae at a time. And we'll move into a dead bug with hand to knee position. So lifting up your right leg and placing your left hand onto that right thigh. We're going to take opposite arm and leg away from the body, making sure the rib cage is not popping open as we do this modified dead bug exercise. Your hand is pushing gently into the knee is pushing gently into the hand. Let's switch to the other side. This time, the right arm pushes into the left knee gently, and the opposite arm and leg reach out and in, keeping the tension through your torso, making sure that the rib cage is pointing down towards the hip bones and you're breathing through this entire movement. Let's rotate over onto our right hand side into a clamshell position. So your knees, ankles, and hips are stacked one on top of the other. Lift your top leg, then rotate your knees to tap together and then your heels to tap together. So the knees together, then the heels. Feeling some work and some tension and heat into that left glute, the side of the hip. The knees tap together and the heels tap together. Continue this pattern, feeling some fatigue building up in those small stabilizing muscles of the lateral hip. Let's extend out that top left leg and draw small circles with the leg. We're not letting our torso rotate at all as we're keeping our abdominals strong to anchor the position of our upper body. Let's rotate in the other direction, keeping the circles relatively small so that we're able to control the upper body position. Not rolling or rocking or moving too much with the upper body will help to target those lateral hips a little bit more and isolate them. Let's move into a side plank on this side. You can do this from your knees or you can do it from your feet. The feet is going to be the harder option. Reach that top arm up and let's lift the top leg. This can happen if you're on your knees or your toes, lifting and lowering that top leg as you hold this side plank position. Keep the hips stacked one on top of the other, the shoulders stacked one on top of the other, and now let's rotate with the upper body. So rest the feet together, take that top arm, and it's like you're drawing a semicircle right underneath your armpit. Rotating through the torso while keeping the hips lifting up and away from the floor. Extra work on the obliques here. Let's release this side plank position and move into the frog stretch. We'll take our knees nice and wide on our mat, turning our feet out so that the insides of our knees and our shins and our feet rest on the ground. You may stay here in this position, or perhaps you'll choose to walk your hands forward so that your chest may come closer to the floor. Find a comfortable position, as this stretch can be very challenging for the inner thighs. You want to relax as much as you can through the hips. Take those deep breaths into the rib cage and into the belly and relax the upper body. Whether you're up on your hands or down on your forearms, enjoy this deep stretch. Let's move up to hands and knees position. We're going to tuck one knee behind the other and open up the feet so that there's a place for our hips to come backwards. We'll lean back slightly, perhaps staying here, enjoying the stretch in our lateral hips. If this isn't intense enough, we'll walk the hips back so that they settle onto the ground. You can absolutely stay up with the hips off the ground, or they can come to seated. If you're in the seated position, reach one hand up and over to the side, and then move over to the other side, so you're enjoying an extra side body stretch. Keep reaching from one side to the other as you're in this glute stretch for the lateral hips. Let's walk ourselves out of this stretch, unhooking the legs, and we'll switch to the other side. So cross the other knee behind, open up the feet so there's a place for the hips to come back. Maybe they don't reach for the ground, or maybe they do. If you are coming all the way back to sit your hips onto the floor, stack your spine nice and tall, making sure that both hips are seated on the ground. Let's reach one arm up and over, enjoying that extra side body stretch. Other arm to the other side, floating from side to side, enjoying the stretch through the side of the torso. Let's walk ourselves forward out of this stretch, unhooking the knees and coming back into that frog stretch once again. So we've just stretched the sides of our hips. Now we're going to stretch those inner thighs again. So the knees are open wide, the feet are open wide, and you're finding a comfortable position. It doesn't matter if you can't go very deep in this stretch. We want to feel a gentle opening on the inner thighs. Keep your deep breaths going because this can feel very intense. Relaxing the upper body as much as possible. Let's come back onto our other side. So we're going to lie onto our left side this time, stacking our feet in the clamshell position, and then we're going to lift that top leg, tapping the knees together, then tapping the feet together. The knees and then the feet, making sure that the upper body is very quiet and relaxed. The core is strong, but the upper body, the shoulders are relaxed. Feeling work on the lateral hips in this exercise as we tap the knees and the feet together. Let's extend out that top leg, still some tension through the upper body, and make circles, small and controlled circles with that top leg. Imagine you're reaching your leg out really far, like it's growing out of your hip. We'll switch and go in the opposite direction, making sure that there's not much movement with the upper body. Rotating the leg, feeling lots of work in the lateral hip, so the side of your glute, the side of your butt muscle. Let's move into our side plank position, either coming from the knees or potentially using the feet for the more challenging options. Stack those hips and shoulders, and let's begin to lift that top leg. Making sure we're not collapsing through the underside body. We're lifting the hips up and long and strong through the sides of our torso. Take your top arm now, resting the leg down, and draw your semicircle right underneath your armpit, underneath that side body. So you're rotating through your torso. Extra challenge for the obliques, the side of our abdominals in this exercise. Release yourself down and move yourself into a hands and knees position. Start breathing into the rib cage, into the belly. As you inhale, let your belly button drop down to the floor. Arch the heart upwards, and then as you exhale, round up through the mid-back like a Halloween cat, emptying all the air. Inhale to drop down, spreading the sit bones, then exhale to arch up one vertebrae at a time. Continue flowing through your inhales and exhales, dropping the belly and then arching upwards. Return yourself to neutral position and walk your hands over to one side like you're a dog looking for your tail. Walk your hands back through center to walk over to the other side and enjoy that lateral stretch down the side of your torso. Return back to the first side and and then walk back over to the second side, getting that nice stretch down the side of your torso from your shoulder to your hip. Bring your hands back to center, find that neutral position with your spine, and then reach your opposite arm and leg out to hover in a quadruped Superman. We'll reach the other side and we'll keep switching from one side to the other. As you do this movement, do not let your belly button come closer to the ground. Keep your abdominals on nice and strong and do not drop down through the belly. Think length, not height with your arm and your leg. So reach out long instead of focusing on reaching out really high. Let's move into a front plank position. Bring the forearms onto the ground, elbows underneath shoulders, and get your hips up just a little bit higher than you think you should. Option is to touch your toe out to the side. So you'll move into a one-leg plank and touch your toe out to the side, imagining a zipper zipping up the front of your abdominals so you're nice and strong through that anterior core. Don't let your hips or your torso rock much from side to side. Let's relax down onto our belly, bringing our hands to the side of our chest. Inhale, then exhale, engage the abdominals up and in, and move into a Cobra. So you're going to lift up just gently and slightly through the upper body, just until the chest comes lightly off the ground, imagining growing out through the top of your neck. Then rest your head back and down. Inhale, exhale, and engage the abdominals, and then you can gently press the hands into the ground to get that upper thoracic extension. Relax your chest all the way back down to the ground. You now have an option to clasp your hands behind you at your low back. As you come up into your Cobra, still engage your abdominals, pulling the belly button up and away from the floor, and pull the hands back and down away from the hips. Enjoy a chest and shoulder stretch at the same time. Keep breathing into the sides of the rib cage and then rest back down. Switch the grip of your hand so your other thumb comes over top. Inhale, then exhale to engage the abdominals and pull the hands back and down, getting that extension through the upper back and upper body. Relax down onto the floor with your forehead and press yourself back into that hands and knees position. We're going to rock back and forth on our hands and knees, trying to loosen up the hips, loosen up the shoulders, and help to relax the torso. Rocking backward and forward, imagining that your head is leading you forward as you go, and think about staying as loose and relaxed as you can through your hips as you're rocking back and forward. Let's bring one foot in front of us into a hip flexor lunge. Our left leg will go forward and we'll reach that right arm up towards the ceiling, enjoying the stretch on the front of our hip. As an option, you can reach back for that right foot, intensifying the stretch for the hip flexor and the quadriceps. Continue reaching forward with your torso so your rib cage to your hip bone maintains a nice strong connection. Pull that foot towards your butt as you enjoy this stretch. Gently release the foot and reach the right arm back up to the ceiling to enjoy that hip flexor lunge. Let's move to the other side. Other foot goes in front. We'll reach the left arm up as the right leg is lunging forward and enjoy the stretch into the left front of the hip flexor. As an option, you can reach the left hand back, finding the left foot and intensifying this quadricep and hip flexor stretch. Keep leaning forward slightly with the torso, keeping that connection from the rib cage to the hip bone so we're not popping forward through the anterior core. Keep breathing those inhales and exhales into your hips because this stretch can be intense on the front of the leg. Gently release that back leg, reach the left arm up to the ceiling again, enjoying that hip flexor lunge. And we'll release back down onto our belly. Take your arms out into a T position and now do your windshield wipers, but this time lying on your stomach. Let your feet rock and roll from side to side and let your hips just loosen and release any tension through the low back, through the front of the hips, through the inner thighs as you rock the feet from side to side. Keep your left arm extended in that T position and gently roll over onto the inside of that left shoulder so that you feel a nice stretch through your chest and through your shoulder. You don't need to reach the top right leg back behind you, but if you want to intensify the stretch, this is a lovely option to do so. Keep spreading the fingers of the left hand, and then let's slowly release back down to the stomach. Extend the right arm out into that T position now, spreading the fingers and gently rolling onto the inside of that right shoulder just until it's comfortable, feeling a nice stretch through the front of the chest and the shoulder on the right side. We don't want to overdo this as it can be intense for the front of that chest and shoulder. If you want to intensify it, you can take the top left leg over to help rotate the torso slightly. Keep breathing into your chest, spreading your fingers, and then let's come back onto our stomach. We're going to press ourselves back into a child's pose here. So bring your hips back towards your heels and tent up onto your fingertips so that your arms are up off the mat. This helps stretch into your lats. So reach up onto the fingertips and walk the arms up and over to the right hand side, enjoying more of a stretch into your left lats. Walk the hands up and over to the left side and enjoy the stretch into the right side of your lats. Come back to center and let's tuck our toes underneath. Make sure that all the toes come underneath, and you're going to bring your hips back. You may choose not to bring the full weight of your body onto your feet, so you may keep your hands on the ground, or you may sit all the way back, relaxing the hips down onto the heels and enjoying a lengthening and opening stretch on the back, on the arch of your foot, so the bottom of your foot. Try to find as comfortable as possible of a position here and keep breathing. Imagining the feet are opening up and releasing tension. This can be an intense stretch. Let's release this one and place the tops of the feet onto the ground, the forehead onto the mat, and bring the hands around behind you to rest your feet beside your hands. Let's breathe deeply into the rib cage, into the mid and upper back, and into the low back here. Taking a couple moments for deep relaxation, emptying your mind, and enjoying those deep breaths into the back side of your body. Let the front side of your body totally relax into your legs and send all the breath into your spine. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.